Is big alcohol the new big tobacco? That's the question that I'm going to set out to answer in today's brief video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Dr. Frank. I'm the founder of Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching Programs, which are dedicated to helping people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content, substances I once struggled with. But today, we're going to be talking a little bit about alcohol. And before we dive into today's conversation, I want to set the tone by watching a brief TikTok video with you guys that I think is going to shed some light on this topic.
Alcohol is the new cigarettes. This is wild to me. Because what if it's true? No, there's no way alcohol is the new cigarettes. Alcohol is everywhere. It's sold everywhere. It's such a normal part of our society. There's no way it's as harmful as cigarettes, and there's no way. Okay, look at cigarettes in the 1950s. You could smoke in restaurants. You could smoke wherever you wanted. You could smoke on airplanes. You could smoke in restaurants. Meaning, if you didn't smoke cigarettes and you walk into a restaurant, you just had to deal with the fact that you were surrounded by secondhand smoke. Everybody smoked everywhere, and it was completely normal. And then they slowly started to find out how harmful it was. And oh my God, there's this in why do they put that in cigarettes? There's tar in there and there's carcinogens. What? Go, oh wow, this is what your lungs look like if you smoke cigarettes. That's fucked up. We can't really ignore that. As years went on in the 60s, 70s, 80s, lots of people stopped smoking. Lots of people didn't stop smoking because it's... But just think about how destructive alcohol is. It has just as many harms as cigarettes. Drive cars when we're drunk. Do you know how many people kill themselves and other people because they were drunk driving? Do you know how many people stumble into the street when they're drunk and get hit by a car? And I don't even have to name all the other ways that humans die because of alcohol. Alcohol poisoning is just an overdose. If you overdose on any other drug, people call it an overdose. But when you overdose on alcohol, like alcohol poisoning, no, it's an overdose, right? Like you had to get rushed to the hospital and you had to get a bunch of fluids pumped in you and you had to get all to like revive you. Like what? The way we feel about alcohol today is how people felt about cigarettes back then. They were like, oh, everybody does it. It's really normal. It makes me feel good temporarily. It's the same thing.
So at the same time I saw this video, there was recently a lot of controversy surrounding the Bud Light beer company. And under their new CEO, at least I believe that's her position, they recently decided to run a campaign in which they highlighted one of the main transgender TikTok stars, okay? And that I could care less about that. That's not what got my attention. What got my attention was the interview with this CEO or head of marketing for Bud Light and what she had to say regarding alcohol and the direction that Bud Light is going in. Pay attention very closely to this.
I'm a businesswoman. I had a really clear job to do when I took over Bud Light. And it was, this brand is in decline. It's been in decline for a really long time. And if we do not attract young drinkers to come and drink this brand, there will be no future for Bud Light. So I had this super clear mandate. It's like we need to evolve and elevate this incredibly iconic brand. And what I brought to that was a belief in, okay, what does evolve and elevate mean? It means inclusivity. It means shifting the tone.
Okay. Now, before I address that video and give my opinion on it, I want to read an excerpt from you guys from a book called This Naked Mind. I read this book probably around a year and a half ago, and this book was largely responsible. It's by Annie Grace for my quitting casually drinking on weekends. Like after reading this book, I gave that up. But hear what she says. How do we allow the advertising industry to spend more than $2 billion to tell us and our children that ingesting an addictive substance that drastically shortens our lives, destroys our confidence, causes cancer, and is responsible for death, abuse, violence, suicide, and general unhappiness will make our lives better? Why do we see cocaine and alcohol so differently, especially when in the United States, alcohol kills 241 people per day and cocaine kills only 15 people per day? Why do we glamorize the benefits of drinking a poisonous substance? It was also in this book that I read a sentence that really stuck out to me. Annie Grace stated, "Alcohol is ethanol. Ethanol, without being too specific, is gasoline. Ethanol is poison. That feeling that you feel when you get a buzz, that rush that you have, it's intoxication, toxic. It's a toxic exposure of a drug, of a poison to your central nervous system. That's why everything slows down. That's why alcohol doesn't speed people up. It slows them down because you've been poisoned. Feeling hungover is feeling poisoned. Blacking out is your body's way of shutting down to prevent you from drinking more so you don't cause further damage and potentially become unalived, unintentionally or intentionally. It's a defense mechanism to stop your body from poisoning you further. When I started to learn this about alcohol, I said to myself, wow, they're using the exact same tactics that Big Tobacco used. They're taking a page right out of Big Tobacco's playbook, and they have been for years. This has been going on. Santa Claus in the commercials drinking a beer with his cookies, right? People drinking wine in commercials around the holidays. It's wine o'clock, all of the shirts. And then you get this flood of pretty BS relatively BS-filled studies saying, oh, there's health benefits to wine. There's health benefits potentially to beer. There's health benefits to alcohol, a poison, which, by the way, now each of those studies has been largely disputed and disproven. It's safe to say there is absolutely zero health benefit when it comes to consuming alcohol. Now, that's not shocking, but Big Tobacco did the exact same thing when smoking first came out, as that guy was saying in the first video, and no one thought anything of it. Alcohol companies are doing the same thing. And even crazier to me, this blows my mind. Years ago, big tobacco companies launched something called Project Scum, SCUM. This is what they called it. And the goal of this campaign was to target minority communities, particularly those in the LGBTQ communities, okay? Because they recognized that a lot of these individuals in minority communities are more prone to substance use disorders. So they said this is a great demographic for us to target and bring in. And they're younger. They're doing the exact same thing at Bud Light, and it's being praised. Oh, look how brave they are. Look how inclusive they are. When Big Tobacco did this, they got sued for millions, and I think it eventually costed them billions of dollars. They're no longer allowed to advertise the same ways. They're definitely not allowed to target younger people. It just blows my mind that this is all right in front of us, that we're being lied to. And this is why I quit drinking. I don't like feeling stupid. I don't like feeling fooled. And I have been fooled by alcohol companies. And what blows my mind even more is that I know these tactics because I've studied them when it comes to vape companies, tobacco companies, energy drink companies. We're going to see the same thing with cannabis companies as we move forward with legalization. And they can get away with it without any kickback, without any fines, without any repercussions. Why is it so important that alcohol and tobacco companies maintain younger drinkers? Because the ones who continue to drink and smoke tend to die a lot earlier than those who don't. So you need to keep that high rate of turnover among your younger consumers. Because all the people who have been drinking and smoking, they're dying a lot sooner than someone who hasn't, their counterparts. Let's hear what Jordan Peterson has to say about alcohol, because this just it gets crazier.
Alcohol is unbelievably dangerous. I mean, about 10% of people become addicted to it one way or another.
Really?
And far more people than that abuse it. 50% of people who are murdered are drunk. And 50% of the people who murder them are drunk. And that's true for almost every violent crime. In fact, if you eliminated alcohol, you'd eliminate most interpersonal violence.
It's amazing to me that something that has been arguably rated one of the most harmful substances to society is able to be openly advertised. Now, I'm not one to call for prohibition or anything like that, because I believe people have the right to make their own decisions and their own choices, but I don't understand how they're allowed to market and constantly deceive the general public. Will they get rich? Will people get poor in their health, poor mentally, poor physically, poor relationships, poor decision making? It makes no sense. And to Jordan Peterson's point, it was funny because right after watching that video and downloading it, knowing I was going to make this YouTube video, watch the next video that pops up on my TikTok feed with me. This is just crazy.
Hey, what? What's going on? Talk to me.
I paid for a flight.
Yeah?
Hold on. I'm sorry. Look. Oh, no. I don't have any weapons. I don't have any weapons.
Walk away.
Yeah, tell that motherfucker to shut his mouth before I beat his ass.
Go over
Listen, they took $2,000 of my money to put me on that flight, and now I'm not on that flight.
Okay, cool.
How the do I get to Longview?
I don't know how you get to Longview, but hey,
if I spent $2,000 for a flight, round trip, from Longview to Medford, Medford back to Longview, why the am I not on a flight back to Longview?
What's your name?
Quig Lee. Q-U-I-G-L-E-Y. Put me on my f***ing flight.
How much did you have to drink? What's going on?
About 3 margaritas.
About 3 margaritas.
Yeah, you got a f***ing problem with that?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Why do you have a f***ing problem with that, and you have a f***ing liquor bar in this f***ing airport? You!
Bring it down.
Listen! I'm on a f***ing flight, and I paid $2,000 to be on.
Hey,
Bring it down.
turn around.
Listen!
Turn around. You're going to jail.
Why?
Because you're intoxicated, man.
There's no reason to arrest me.
Turn around now.
Why?
Turn around. All right, come on. Let's go. Get on the ground.
Hey!
On the ground.
You piece of shit.
So maybe if he wasn't busy drinking, I'm going to guess 4 to 5 margaritas, because people usually lie about their consumption to the police. I'm going to guess he would have made that flight on time. Although, if he didn't, he certainly has a right to be mad after spending $2,000 and the plane leaving without him. And he does have a point. Why are they serving alcohol in airports if it's such a big deal, if it's such a big problem? Well, you do, like, that's a legitimate question. If alcohol is involved in violent crime, if alcohol is involved in abusive behavior, if alcohol is involved in this type of behavior, like we're seeing here, this anger, this rage, this decreased inhibition when it comes to, confronting a police officer or dealing with authority, why is alcohol available in airports? That makes no sense whatsoever. You can't get tobacco in most airports. They won't sell it. You can't get, dip pouches in most airports. They won't sell it. You can't dip on a plane, but you can drink on a plane. It makes no sense when we actually think about it. Why has alcohol gotten away with so much, and how much have they fooled us as a society? I think society is largely starting to wake up to this. Once I started to see alcohol for what it really is, this is where I said to myself, you know what? I don't need that drink at dinner. I don't need that drink on the weekend. It's really not a reward. It's just another way of me poisoning my body. No different from how I was doing it with all those other substances, but arguably worse. I could argue that there's some benefit to cannabis. I could argue that there's certainly medical benefit to nicotine. I could argue that there's definitely benefit to caffeine. But when it comes to alcohol, it's straight poison. What is the point? And as I started to ask myself that question more and more, I started to back away from alcohol until I eventually completely put it down. Now, I'm going to start making more videos on alcohol on this channel, as we also are going to put out more content on adult media addiction and energy drink addiction. So if that's stuff that you need help with, and we have a ton of content on cannabis addiction, be sure to subscribe or follow me right into the next video where I talk a little bit more about addiction and anxiety. Because if you're having more anxiety, it might be related to some of the side effects of addiction. And pick up a copy of this book. I got it linked in the video description. This is a great book for anyone who's struggling with alcohol use disorder. Check it out. All right, guys.